They said it was just a mailbox. But when it kept getting smashed again and again by so-called HOA cops who thought they owned the block, I decided I'd had enough. This wasn't just vandalism, it was war. So I built something they never saw coming. A mailbox that didn't just fight back. It humiliated them in front of the whole neighborhood. Hidden cameras, engineered traps, and a whole lot of revenge. This story has everything. From petty power trips to public payback. You're about to see exactly how far I went to shut them down for good. Stick around. It's a story you're not going to want to miss. And if you enjoyed this one, be sure to click subscribe, because tomorrow, we have another special story for you. When I bought the place, all I wanted was peace. A little space, a quiet neighborhood, and no drama. That's it. My ranch wasn't fancy, but it was mine. Open skies, wide land, and a mailbox at the end of a long gravel drive. For a few months, everything was great. I didn't even think much about the HOA. They sent the usual welcome letter. Threw in a few rules about grass height and trash bins. Nothing outrageous. I played along. Until one morning, I walked out and saw my mailbox lying in pieces on the ground. At first, I thought it was an accident. Maybe someone backed into it. Mailboxes get hit sometimes. No big deal. I put up a new one the same day. Stronger, metal base, cemented into the ground. Problem solved, or so, I thought. 3 days later, it happened again. This time, the whole thing was torn clean off. Bolts ripped out like someone used a crowbar. Still no note, no explanation. Just another busted box. Then came the third time. I stayed up late, working in the garage, and heard a noise just past midnight. A truck, idling, footsteps on gravel. I peeked out and saw 2 men in dark uniforms walking toward my mailbox with flashlights. They weren't cops. Their vests read HOA enforcement. Before I could even react, they bashed the mailbox in with what looked like a metal baton, then calmly got back in their truck and drove off like it was just part of the job. I stood there stunned. That wasn't an accident. That was deliberate. And worse, they thought they had the right. The next morning, I marched into the HOA office with photos and filed a formal complaint. The lady at the front desk barely looked up. "You probably violated mailbox code," she said without checking anything. I asked for a copy of the rule book. She told me to check the website. I went home, pulled up the HOA regulations. My mailbox. It was 100% compliant. Right size, right height, right color. I called the HOA hotline, left 3 voicemails. Nothing. A week later, mailbox number 4 was flattened. That was when it hit me. This wasn't about some code or rule. This was personal. Someone on that board, or one of their little enforcers, had it out for me. Maybe I parked the wrong way once. Maybe I missed a community meeting. Maybe I just didn't fit their image of what a homeowner should be. But, whatever their reason, one thing was clear. I wasn't going to get help from anyone. If I wanted it to stop, I'd have to stop it myself. After the 4th time my mailbox got destroyed, I stopped hoping it was just random. I needed answers. I started by asking around the neighborhood, keeping it casual. Most folks clammed up the moment I mentioned the HOA cops. A few gave me awkward glances, like they didn't want to get involved. But one older guy, Jim, 2 houses down, pulled me aside and said, "You're not the first. They've been doing this to people who don't play nice." I asked him if they were real cops. He laughed bitterly. "Nope, just HOA muscle. They rent uniforms, slap on fake badges, and act like they run the town." That didn't sit right with me. So I started watching, waiting. I set up a trail cam by the mailbox, tucked behind a tree. A few nights later, they came again, same truck, same guys, same routine. But this time, I got them, clear shot. One of them even looked straight into the lens. I was pumped. Finally, proof. I went inside, popped the SD card into my laptop dash, and ... nothing. The files were gone. Not corrupted. Not missing. Gone, like they were never recorded. I checked the camera. Still working. Battery full. Memory intact. But every file from that night wiped clean. The next morning, there was a fresh HOA violation notice on my door. Unauthorized surveillance equipment. A warning. Nothing official. Just enough to let me know they were watching. 2. That was it. The line had been crossed. They wanted me scared. They wanted me to feel alone, like no one could touch them. And for a second, it almost worked. But I wasn't about to be bullied, off my own property. I upgraded everything. Hardwired cameras this time. Hidden backup drives. I even set up motion alerts on my phone. Every time a vehicle came up my road, I knew. I kept a log of every violation, every encounter, every fake citation they stuck on my door. I documented it all. I stopped trying to reason with the HOA. No more calls. No more complaints. These weren't rule keepers. They were thugs playing dress-up. If they wanted a quiet guy to back down, they picked the wrong house. I wasn't just going to protect my property. I was going to make damn sure the whole neighborhood saw exactly who these people were. And I already had an idea of how to do it. If they wanted a war, they were about to get one end this time. I wasn't fighting fair. I called my cousin Derek, the kind of guy who builds drones for fun and once turned his garage into a VR motion simulator. I told him everything. Fake HOA cops, the disappearing footage, the mailbox getting destroyed over and over. He didn't even blink. Let's build something they'll never forget, he said. We got to work that weekend. Derek came over with a carload of sensors, spray canisters, battery packs, wireless HD cameras. Even a speaker system he ripped out of his old project truck. I had no idea what half of it did, but he was already sketching out wiring diagrams on a pizza box. Like he'd been waiting his whole life for this moment. The new mailbox looked normal from the outside. Just a simple steel post with a classic black box on top. But inside, it was a whole different story. If someone tampered with it, the mailbox would trigger a chain reaction. A motion sensor would activate a loud siren. 2 small nozzles hidden in the corners would spray bright red, paint in a wide arc, and the internal cameras would stream the whole thing live to a secure server. Derek set up. It took us 3 days to test everything. The siren alone was loud enough to wake the dead. The paint canisters were filled with eco-safe but stubborn dye that stuck to skin and clothes for days. It wouldn't hurt anyone, but it would absolutely humiliate them. And best of all, cameras, crystal clear. We ran trial after trial, adjusting the timing, making sure it wouldn't go off on a mail carrier or a kid passing by. We even tested the pressure triggers using a dummy in a hoodie and sunglasses. When it all finally worked, I stood back and looked at the finished setup. It didn't look like much, but it was a trap. Plain and simple, silent, waiting. Derek gave me a slap on the back. Now we wait, he said. And wait, we did. Every night. I checked the camera feeds. Every morning, I walked outside expecting to see another destroyed box. But the mailbox stood tall. For almost a week, nothing happened. No trucks, no footsteps, no enforcers. Then, on the 7th night, the alert hit my phone. Motion detected. Someone was back, and they were about to get the surprise of their lives. It was just after 1 a.m. when my phone lit up. Motion detected at mailbox camera. I sat up in bed, adrenaline kicking in instantly. I tapped the feed. There they were, 2 figures creeping down the gravel road. Same truck idling nearby. Same dark uniforms with that ridiculous HOA enforcement patch. This was it. I slipped out of bed, pulled on a hoodie, and crept to the window, heart pounding. I didn't need to intervene. I just needed to watch. The guy in front raised a crowbar, just like last time. He took a swing. Boom. The siren screamed to life. sharp and sudden like a car alarm in a tunnel. At the same time, red paint exploded from both sides of the mailbox, splashing across their faces, shirts, arms everywhere. One of them stumbled back yelling. The other froze like a deer in headlights as two floodlights hidden in nearby bushes flared to life, bathing the whole scene in blinding white. They were exposed. And I don't just mean standing in the light. I mean truly exposed, humiliated, shocked, soaked in red paint that clung to their clothes and skin like glue. One of them tried to wipe his face off, and only made it worse, smearing it across his mouth and eyes. The other ran back to the truck, but slipped and fell in the gravel, cursing loud enough for the entire street to hear. It didn't take long for the neighbors to come out. Lights flicked on, doors opened. People stepped outside in their pajamas, cell phones raised, filming every second. I stepped onto my porch with a fresh cup of coffee, just to complete the scene. One of the so-called cops saw me and pointed. "This is illegal." He booby-trapped the mailbox. I didn't say a word. I just smiled and raised my phone, already streaming the whole thing live to a private group I'd set up with neighbors who had also been harassed. In the comments, people were cheering. The cops weren't real. The citations were fake. And now everyone could see it. Within minutes, they bailed, jumped in their truck, tires screeching, leaving a trail of red paint behind them. The street was buzzing. People were laughing. Someone shouted, "Looks like the HOA just got HOAD." The best part? Every frame was captured in 4K, from 3 different angles. Audio, too. They had no idea the cameras were so advanced, and that was just the beginning. Because now, it was time to take this public. By the next morning, the video had already taken off. What started as a few shares in the local Facebook group exploded into thousands of views on YouTube and Reddit. Within hours, people across the country were laughing at 2 grown men getting splattered in red paint while pretending to be HOA cops. The title I gave it, "Caught Red-Handed, Fake HOA Enforcers Busted by Booby-Trapped Mailbox." Short, sweet, and to the point. The comments came flooding in. "This is justice. You're a hero. Best thing I've seen all year." Some even offered to donate money for more traps. My inbox blew up with interview requests, and by that afternoon, a local news van was parked on my street, pointing a camera at the still splattered gravel and mailbox. That was when the real panic started from the HOA. They released a statement, claiming the 2 men involved were acting outside their authority and had been temporarily suspended. But people weren't buying it. Not after seeing the fake badges, the crowbar, the uniforms. And definitely not after one of the guys was identified in the comments by a former HOA member who said, "He's been harassing residents for years." Legal action followed quickly. Turns out, not only did the HOA have no right to send people onto private property to destroy mailboxes, but impersonating law enforcement HOA styles, a big deal. Fines were issued. One of the guys tried to claim injury from the booby trap, but with everything caught clearly on camera, the case didn't last a day. As for me, my name was cleared completely. The HOA was forced to issue a formal apology and remove all bogus violation notices from my file. A few board members stepped down quietly. Others just disappeared from meetings altogether. Neighbors I'd barely spoken to before started waving when I passed. A few came by to thank me. One even brought a pie. It was like I'd become the unofficial defender of the neighborhood door, at least the guy who finally stood up to the bullies in cheap polyester uniforms, and the mailbox, still standing tall, not a scratch on it since that night. Everyone knows what it is now, and no one's dumb enough to try again. Not unless they want to be the next viral sensation. The trap's still active, by the way. Cameras, sirens, paint, and all. Because in this neighborhood, you never know when the cops might come back.